Welcome to the Book Party Podcast.
Join us as we journey into the world of books with Michael T.
Prepare to be captivated by engaging interviews, insightful discussions, and fascinating stories. You'll discover new adventures and gain insight into the creative process of the authors themselves as they share their struggles and accomplishments. Now let's hear from Michael T.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a remarkable author who has dedicated his life to spreading the light of hope and healing. Dr. Bob Rich, a man of diverse talents and unwavering dedication, has graced the literary world with his transformative work, From Depression to Contentment, a self-therapy guide. Dr. Bob Rich's journey through life is as diverse as it is inspiring. Having retired from 5 different occupations, he continues to shine brightly as an editor, author, and most importantly, a professional grandfather. His mission is clear: to shape a better tomorrow for today's youth and a tomorrow worth surviving in. He believes in the power of change, advocating for a shift from a global culture of greed, hate, and aggression to one rooted in compassion, decency, and cooperation. But his unique approach to reaching hearts and minds sets Dr. Rich apart. He understands that preaching drives people away, and lecturing often leads to slumber. Instead, he uses the magic of humor and the enchantment of captivating stories to convey his wisdom and incitements. From Depression to Contentment, a self-therapy guide, we are left with a profound gratitude for the contribution to the world of self-help and healing. In this book, you will find a trusted companion to guide you through the darkest of days, offering a beacon of hope and a path of personal transformation. Dr. Bob Rich's genuine understanding of the human experience, backed by research-based techniques presented in an accessible manner, helps this book an invaluable resource for anyone seeking solace from the shadows of depression. With its engaging homework assignments and practical guidance, you will uncover your inner strengths, unearth the wellspring of true happiness, and forge an unbreakable resilience. Regardless of your beliefs or background, Dr. Bob Rich's approach bridges the gap between philosophies, inviting everyone to embark on a life filled with meaning, positivity, and purpose. In the words of those touched by his work, Dr. Bob Rich is a beacon of hope, a guide who meets you where you are and gently leads you back to yourself. His humor and expertise merge seamlessly, making the journey valuable and everyone so. If you find yourself battling the shadows of depression, remember that you have a friend in Dr. Bob Rich and his book, From Depression to Contentment. It's a roadmap to a brighter, more fulfilling future, a testament to the power of resilience, transportation, and the unwavering human spirit. Dr. Bob Rich, why don't you take this opportunity to fill in some gaps and tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, gee, I don't recognize myself. That sounds too good. I'm just a grumpy old man with no sense of humor. Well, actually, what I do is I demonstrate that other people have a sense of humor because they laugh at me when I talk. And, you know, what you say is sort of right, but I don't recognize myself. You know, I'm one of these people who sometimes trips on his own feet and, you know, I don't know what to say, don't know what to write, and then it comes to me. I'm not some super person out there, just a little old fella. Anyway, let me tell you about my first book press, because I've got 19 published books at the moment. The first book was with Penguin, and it sold hundreds of thousands of copies in the tiny Australian market. Went through 4 editions, and when my daughter was 18, she went travelling around Australia. Oh, because I live in Australia, you didn't mention that. And she was doing woofing. You ever heard of woofing? Willing workers on organic farms?
No.
And they're worth looking up. And the book was basically how to build your own house with your hot little hand instead of hiring experts. And she found my book in about 80% of her hosts' homes. Then my second book is called Woodworking for Idiots Like Me, because I was the most impractical person on earth before I started building my house. And, you know, if I could do it, if I could learn it, anybody can. And when that went out of print, I republished it, but with many diagrams. It's such a big book that I made it a big web page, and that's still available privately from me. And then, through a couple of accidents, I ended up writing fiction too. So most of my books are novels because they're more fun to write, and because, as you said, you preach at people, they run away. You lecture at them, they fall asleep. So it's better to entertain. Anyway, one of your questions was, do I do everything or do I hire experts to do it? Well, most of my books are with publishers and they do most things, except for publicity. Publishers don't do publicity nowadays. But I only do everything on my off day. Usually I'm too busy for that because they say when you retire, you get more busy, and I've retired faster from 5 different things. So just think how busy I can be. You're doing important things like gardening and playing chess, and also I'm politically active and with various organizations like looking after refugees and things like that. And as you also asked, do I have a ghostwriter or someone collaborating with me? Well, my ghostwriters are my characters. Okay? The people in my stories tell me what to write, and I'm a faithful scribe. And when I'm writing non-fiction, that's still true, because then I'm my character and I tell myself what to write. That makes sense?
It does. Why don't you let me get to the questions?
Other thing is,
Why don't you let me get to the questions?
Okay. Right. Sorry, I thought I'd done that.
This is Michael T., and to all our listeners, I would like to invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, scroll down to the icon of your choice, where you can download us from there. You can find us on one of your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. Please don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter, where you can get the latest information on our upcoming shows. We were talking about your publishing journey, is what I wanted to get at. And on your publishing journey, did you go the self-publishing route, or did you go to the agency publishing route, or something in between, like a hybrid publisher?
Well, I've never had an agent, but the first book I teamed up with a man who was a journalist by profession and the publisher of a magazine, and he already had 8 books. So he lined up the publisher. And soon as we went with the publisher, Penguin bought it out. So the first book was with Penguin. And that went through 4 editions between 1986 and 2018. And sadly, it's out of print now, but even today, I get people contacting me trying to buy a copy. And
Okay.
then more recently, I've had my various books with a number of small, excellent independent publishers, like Loving Healing Press, to publish From Depression to Contentment.
Oh, okay. Well, I have your book, From Depression to Contentment. Did you have to hire someone to do the cover, or did you do that yourself? How did you do that on the cover?
Well, my publisher has his pet artist, cover artist, who does it. And what I said, I sent him a copy, or a picture of an Australian eagle, the wedge-tail eagle, and asked for that on the cover. And he said, we can't get a sufficiently good picture. Besides, most of your readers will be American. We're putting an American eagle on there. So that's what's on the cover, which is not fair.
Okay, well, a question that I've got for you is, when you wrote this book, the current one we're talking about, From Depression to Contentment, take us to what you would consider your worst author moment in writing that book.
Oh, okay. When I sent it off to Victor, my publisher, he said, a self-help book should be under 50,000 words, or people don't buy it. And this was 95,000 words. So I had to cut it in half. And the way I write is to make things interesting. So it's full of stories. Stories from my life, stories from my clients' lives, even some invented ones. And so what I had to do was to take a great deal of that out, all the fiction parts or fiction appearing parts out, and basically rewrite it to get it under. I got it down to 49,995 words. How's that? And then I had all the leftovers.
Cut the line.
So I put them together into a second book and published that too. And the way they go is there is a story, and then there is a bit of a discussion of the story, which is how it was in the original. And that's also 50,000 words. And that's lifting the gloom. So From Depression to Contentment is the main course, and lifting the gloom is the dessert. And together, they'll feed you a good life.
Well, sometimes, see, when you go with a publisher, a lot of times the publishers take over your book, and it's not yours anymore, because they tell you what to do, and they tell you what you can have, and they tell you a lot of these things, and it ends up not being your book anymore. And that's the downside of publishers. When you self-publish, you can publish what you want. You know,
Well,
and that's where I'm on my 4th book now, and I self-published all 3 of the first ones. And they're all, go ahead.
It's not my experience. My first novel to win an international award was with a publisher that was a cooperative of authors. We did all the work. That's how I ended up as an editor. And so I got an inside look. Another one of my books is with an Australian publisher, and I sent her the book, and she said, I love it all, but the ending is horrendous. I can't publish it with that ending. And I read the book, and she was right. So what I did was, that horrendous episode was necessary, so I went past it. My lovely character had to be murdered in a horrible way. So I extended the story to her second birth, to her reincarnation, another 30,000 words, and that made the book really good. So her advice was exactly right. And as for Victor, Loving Healing Press, I trust him implicitly. He's really great.
So, Bob,
So there you are.
let's take this to what we would call, what I call an epiphany moment. No matter what you were doing, you could have been working in a garden, you could have been driving, you could have been doing something. And all of a sudden, on this particular book, you call it a light bulb goes off in your head, the big wow moment. Just all of a sudden, you got to grab a pen and paper, you got to write it down. You got to write it down right now, because when this went off, if you don't write it down now, it's going to fade away and you're going to lose it. Do you ever have a moment like that?
Never.
Never?
Look, when I was a student, I used to, have an assignment. I get the question clear in my mind, go for a 30-mile run. When I come home, have a shower, write it straight down. When I was working in a research job, I'd be, say I have to design a questionnaire. Get the question clear in my mind, ride to work, 52-mile ride. By the time I arrive, I've got it clear. It's same with my fiction. I, for argument's sake, I wanted a story about Christmas, because Christmas can be the worst day of the year for many people, for people who are lonely or grieving. And I needed a story to illustrate it, because I was running an online positive psychology course. So I went to bed. In the morning, I had 81-year-old Mario held at knife point by Paddy, who was homeless and desperate to get enough money for a pizza. So I just wrote down what they told me. Right? So what happens is that there is little Bob living inside my head. I've never met him, but my characters and my ideas talk to little Bob. Little Bob does the writing, and then when he's ready, all I have to do is to sit at my computer and blast it out. I don't use pen and paper because I can't read my own handwriting. Besides, I type faster than I can write. So on my blog, Bobbing Around, and you've got the link to that, if you put in quote, is my writing right for you, in the search slot, the relevant story comes up. It's one of a series of blog posts about writing. And then you can read all about little Bob.
So, Bob, let's go to today. What is the one thing that you are the most fired up about or excited about right now, today?
Oh, we are in the 6th great extinction event of Earth. There is something called the background extinction rate, which is the extinctions that you would expect if there were no humans. Scientific evidence is that the current extinction rate is somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 times that. Humanity is killing its life support system, and I see my task as a professional grandfather to do something about it, and I am. Okay, I've been working at it since 1972, so obviously I haven't done too well. But all you can do is the best you can do, and I'm doing. And in fact, this book, From Depression to Contentment, is part of that book. The problem is that, enjoyable activities like retail therapy, consumerism is consuming the planet. Enjoyable activities like hating everybody who's a little bit different from you is destroying everything. It's much more enjoyable, really, to have what I call an enlightened society. In an enlightened society, all sentient beings are my family. Every human born before about 1993 is my brother or sister. Some might be my uncles and aunts, but there are not that many left. Anybody born after 1986 is my child. After 1993, my grandchild. We're all family. And if we treated everybody like beloved family, we would have a chance for survival. And even if not, it would be a much better world to live in. So I don't care what color your skin is, what religion you are, what language you speak. Doesn't matter. We're family.
Understood. Okay, Bob, we're going to enter into the lightning round. We're going to enter the lightning round, Bob, which is what I have. Is I have 4 pointed questions for 4 pointed answers. So before you started writing, because you've been writing for a while, but before you started writing, what was holding you back from becoming an author in the first place?
Oh, who on earth would be interested in my imagining? I had lots of ideas.
Who is going to listen to you?
But, why would I share it with him?
Yeah, that's a common answer. Okay, after you started writing, what was the best advice you had ever received?
Write as if you were the character. If I am the old man I mentioned, Mario, or Paddy holding him up, then I am Mario or Paddy. If my character is a young girl who's fallen in love with somebody, then I've fallen in love with him. It's me. And this even works for non-fiction, because then I have to imagine that I'm me, which is quite easy.
Okay, well, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Obsessives of the world unite. Everything has to be 200% up. That's really good when you're editing. You pick up every little fault, but also with writing. No one sends my writing until I can't make it any better.
Okay, how about you would share with our listeners an internet resource that you could use when you write?
Well, I can't do better than my blog, Bobbing Around. You'll find it informative, inspiring, challenging, annoying, but never boring.
Okay, Bob, we're going to enter into the grand finale. And what I want you to do in the grand finale is just tell our listeners about your book. Take your time and tell them about your book.
As I said, my original book on depression was cut in two. So it's 2 volumes. From Depression to Contentment, a self-therapy guide, is therapy in your pocket. You don't have to pay hundreds of dollars to a therapist, just a few dollars to buy a copy. The electronic copy is very cheap, and some people like an audio copy, and that's remarkable, you know. In the audio copy, I pretend to be an American lady, even though I'm an Australian old man. If you listen to it, my voice is that of an American woman. Work out how I did that. Pretty clever. To summarize it very quickly, it sets out the problem, which is basically if you're depressed or anxious or chronically angry or caught in gambling or other addictions or whatever, it's not your fault because there's so much of it and it's continually growing. Things are getting worse and worse and worse for people. So it's society's fault. And that means you don't need to blame yourself for it. And then there is therapy, which is research-based, standard tool, but explained my way. And with homework exercises, so you not just read about it. You know, you read about riding a bicycle, doesn't let you ride a bicycle. You've got to get on it and ride it. So we have homework exercises. And therapy takes you up to normal, from miserable to normal. But normal is the walking wounded. We can do a lot better than that. So the last part of the book uses the equally well-researched tools of positive psychology to take you way, way, way above normal when you choose to use them. You know, a psychological tool is like a hammer or a saw. You're not going to drive that nail out in by looking at it and holding the hammer. You've got to hit the nail with the hammer. You're not going to improve your mood by reading about a positive psychology tool and then forgetting about it. You've got to use it. And also, I go into considerable depth in Buddhist tools, which are remarkably effective and also have been validated by scientific research. And you don't need to be a Buddhist to use Buddhist tools. The Dalai Lama said, my religion is to be observed. My religion my religion is kindness. Enlightenment is to be observed. So you can be Jewish, Christian, atheist, whatever, not care about religion, and still follow Buddhist philosophy and make your world a better place as a result. Now,
Okay, Bob. Well, we'll stay with the first one right now.
Okay.
So, Bob, we thank you so much for being here with us today and opening up to us, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate this too. Again, this is Michael T., and to our listeners, I would invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, then scroll down to the icon of your choice where you can find us on one of your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter and get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Book Party Podcast is owned and powered by MTM Legacy Publishing, LLC. This is Michael T. signing off.
You must not miss our next episode as we delve into a world of inspiration, entertainment, and thought-provoking insights. Join Michael T. on the next Book Party podcast and experience a new adventure, a new story, and a complete immersion into the world of Pages Unveiled, Chronicles of the Writing Journey.